My parents said only my sister was worth celebrating on my birthday. They regretted it. Years later, I remember the exact moment my childhood ended. I was turning 16, standing in the kitchen doorway while my mother hung streamers across the living room. Pink and gold, my sister Melody's favorite colors. It was September 14th. My birthday. "Mom," I said quietly, watching her climb down from the stepladder. "Should I invite anyone over today?" She turned to me with that distracted expression I'd grown accustomed to, the one that said her mind was already 3 steps ahead, planning something that didn't involve me. "Oh, Cassie, didn't your father tell you?" She smoothed her hands over her blouse, not quite meeting my eyes. "We're combining celebrations this year. It's more practical." My stomach dropped. "Combining?" "Melody's engagement party," she said, as if this explained everything. "Richard proposed last week, and his family is flying in tonight. It makes sense to celebrate everything at once." According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. "You understand, don't you? You're 16 now, old enough to be mature about these things." I stood there, frozen, as she walked past me to answer the doorbell. The caterers had arrived for my sister's engagement party. On my birthday, Melody was 23, golden-haired and graceful, the kind of daughter who made parents glow with pride at dinner parties. She'd graduated summa cum laude from Stanford, landed a position at a prestigious law firm, and now she was marrying Richard Castellano, whose family owned half the commercial real estate in our city. She was everything I apparently wasn't: accomplished, beautiful, worthy of celebration. I'd heard my father say it once, when he thought I was asleep. "Melody is our success story. Cassie is, well, she's just Cassie." That evening, our house filled with people who'd come to celebrate my sister. The cake, a towering 3-tier masterpiece, read, "Congratulations, Melody and Richard," in elegant script. When I asked about birthday candles, my mother patted my shoulder absently. "Don't be selfish, sweetheart. This is Melody's special day." "It's my birthday," I whispered. But she'd already turned away. No one sang happy birthday. No one gave me cards or gifts. I sat in the corner of our living room, watching my sister float through the crowd in a designer dress while I wore the clearance rack outfit I'd bought with babysitting money. When Richard's mother asked who I was, my father introduced me as Melody's younger sister, as if I had no identity beyond that relation. At some point, I slipped upstairs to my room. I lay in bed, listening to laughter and champagne toasts filtering through the floorboards, and made myself a promise. I would never let them see me break. I would endure this with dignity, build my own life, and prove that worth wasn't measured by their approval. I didn't cry. Instead, I pulled out my journal and wrote down every scholarship application deadline I could find online. If they wouldn't invest in me, I'd invest in myself. The pattern continued. My 17th birthday fell during Melody's wedding planning, so the day was consumed by dress fittings and floral arrangements. 18 came and went with barely an acknowledgement because Melody had just announced her pregnancy. By 19, I'd stopped expecting anything. My parents would call around dinner time, remember it was my birthday, and offer perfunctory wishes before launching into updates about Melody's promotion or her daughter Emma's latest milestone. I learned to celebrate alone. A cupcake from the bakery near campus, a new book I'd saved up for, a quiet evening watching the sunset from the library steps. I learned that loneliness could be a companion, steady and predictable, requiring nothing from me but acceptance. What sustained me was education. I threw myself into my studies with an intensity that bordered on obsession. While my parents paid for Melody's Stanford tuition without blinking, they'd told me I'd need to figure it out for college. So I figured it out. I worked 3 part-time jobs, earned a full academic scholarship to the state university, and studied until my eyes burned and my head pounded. Every A was a small rebellion. Every achievement was proof that I existed, that I mattered, even if only to myself. I majored in social work, drawn to helping children who felt invisible, who suffered in silence. I understood them. I saw myself in their eyes, that particular brand of pain that comes not from dramatic abuse, but from casual neglect, from being consistently overlooked by the people who should love you most. My parents attended Melody's law school graduation with tears of pride. They missed my undergraduate ceremony because it conflicted with Emma's ballet recital. I walked across that stage alone, collected my diploma with honors, and felt nothing but a hollow sort of vindication. During graduate school, I worked at a youth center in an underprivileged neighborhood. The kids there, Marcus with his quick smile hiding bruises, Sophia whose mother worked 3 jobs and still couldn't keep the lights on, Devin who came in hungry every day, they needed someone to see them. So I saw them. I listened. I advocated. I fought for them in ways no one had ever fought for me. It was Marcus who changed everything. He was 14, bright and talented, stuck in a system that treated him like a statistic. I spent months working with him, connecting him with tutors, finding him a mentor, helping him apply for a prestigious arts program. The day he got accepted, he hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "You're the only one who believed in me, Miss Cassie," he said, and I had to excuse myself to cry in the bathroom. A local news channel did a story about the youth center. They interviewed several kids, and Marcus talked about me, about how I'd helped him when everyone else had given up. The segment went viral. Suddenly, my work was being recognized. Organizations reached out. I received an award from the mayor's office for community service. My parents saw it on the evening news. My mother called, breathless with surprise. "Cassie, we had no idea you were doing such important work." I held the phone away from my ear, staring at it like it might bite. After all these years of silence, of forgotten birthdays, and dismissive comments, now they noticed. "I've been doing this for 4 years, Mom." "Well, you never told us," I almost laughed. "You never asked." There was a long pause. "Your father and I are very proud of you." The words I'd waited my whole life to hear felt empty now, arriving decades too late and prompted only by public recognition. I thanked her politely and ended the call. What I didn't know then was that my parents had begun to notice things they'd been too self-absorbed to see. Melody, it turned out, wasn't the perfect daughter they'd imagined. Her marriage to Richard was crumbling. He'd had an affair with a colleague, and their divorce was ugly and public. Melody, accustomed to having everything handed to her, struggled with adversity. She'd never learned resilience because she'd never needed it. She moved back home with Emma, bitter and angry, blaming everyone but herself. Meanwhile, my work expanded. I secured a major grant to develop a mentorship program that paired at-risk youth with professionals in various fields. The program's success rate was extraordinary. Over 80% of participants went on to higher education or stable employment. I was invited to speak at conferences, consult with other cities, write articles about trauma-informed care for young people. I started dating Michael, a teacher I met at one of the youth center's events. He was kind and patient, someone who understood that love meant showing up, consistently and without conditions. When my 27th birthday arrived, he cooked dinner, lit candles, and gave me a framed photo of all the kids from the center holding a banner that read, "Happy birthday to the best Miss Cassie," I cried, real tears, not the silent kind I'd learned to hide. Michael held me while I sobbed, releasing years of suppressed pain. "You deserve this always," he whispered. "Every year, every day." My parents called that evening. "We'd love to see you," my mother said. "It's been too long." I drove to their house the following Sunday, curious about this sudden interest. When I arrived, Melody was there, looking tired and sharp-edged. My parents fawned over Emma, who was now 8 and already showing signs of her mother's entitlement. Over coffee, the truth emerged. My father was retiring, and they'd been reviewing their estate planning. They wanted to discuss family matters. "We're getting older," my father said. "We need to think about care arrangements, about staying close to family." My mother nodded eagerly. "You've always been so good at helping people. Cassie, we thought with your experience in social services, you'd know the best options for seniors, and of course we'd want to stay near you and Michael. You have such a stable life." Understanding dawned slowly, like a toxic sunrise. They weren't interested in me. They were interested in what I could do for them now that Melody's perfect life had imploded. I was useful suddenly, after years of being invisible. "I see," I said carefully. "And what about Melody? Won't you want to stay near her and Emma?" An uncomfortable glance passed between my parents. "Melody is going through a difficult time," my mother said. "She needs space to figure things out, And honestly, Cassie, you've always been more responsible, more reliable. Melody's jaw tightened. She'd built her identity on being the golden child, and now that pedestal was wobbling. She looked at me with something between resentment and desperation. Besides, my father added, you understand hardship. You've dealt with it your whole life. You're better equipped to help us through our later years. The statement hung in the air, oblivious cruelty wrapped in compliments. They'd forced me to deal with hardship by giving me nothing, and now they praised me for the strength I'd developed from their neglect. I set down my coffee cup with precise care. Let me make sure I understand. For 27 years, you've made it clear that Melody was the important daughter, the one worth celebrating, investing in, being proud of. You've forgotten my birthdays, missed my graduations, dismissed my achievements. But now that Melody's life isn't perfect and you're thinking about aging, suddenly I'm the reliable one, the one you want nearby. Cassie, that's not fair, my mother started. Do you remember my 16th birthday? I interrupted, my voice quiet but steel-edged. The day you threw Melody's engagement party and told me to stop being selfish? Do you remember my 21st when you didn't call because you were at some gala for Melody's firm? How about my graduation, which you missed for Emma's ballet recital? Silence filled the room. Emma stared at her hands. Melody's face had gone white. I built a life without you, I continued. I learned to celebrate myself, to validate myself, to be enough without your approval, and I've made peace with that. But I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the daughter you turn to now that your favorite hasn't lived up to expectations. My father's face reddened. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing, I said, standing, but it taught me to give everything to people who truly need it. So thank you for that lesson at least. I left before they could respond. Michael was waiting in the car, having agreed to stay outside during what he'd known would be a difficult conversation. He took one look at my face and pulled me close. Let's go home, he said. In the months that followed, my parents called repeatedly. They wanted to explain, to reconcile, to work through this misunderstanding, but I'd spent my life accommodating their emotional needs while they ignored mine. I was done. Melody, surprisingly, reached out directly. We met at a neutral cafe, and for the first time in our lives, had an honest conversation. I knew they favored me, she admitted, stirring her untouched latte. I knew it was unfair, but I liked being special. I liked being the one they were proud of. And now? I asked. She laughed bitterly. Now I'm divorced, living in their guest room, watching my daughter learn the same entitled behavior I had. Richard left because I was never satisfied, always needed to be the center of attention. I've burned through friendships because I couldn't handle anyone else succeeding. I'm miserable, Cassie. And you're genuinely happy. Despite everything they did or didn't do, you built something real. I felt an unexpected surge of sympathy. Melody was a victim too, in her way, raised to believe her worth depended on being superior, on constant validation. When that validation evaporated, she had no foundation. It's not too late to build differently, I told her, but not for them. For yourself. For Emma. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. I'm sorry, for all those birthdays, all those times I let them push you aside. I should have said something. The apology didn't erase the past, but it was something. We began meeting occasionally, carefully rebuilding a relationship that had never really existed. I learned that Melody was starting therapy, working on her patterns, trying to be a better mother than our parents had been. My parents, however, refused to acknowledge their role. They framed themselves as victims of my sensitivity and unwillingness to forgive. Friends and extended family, seeing only the surface, sometimes sided with them. Didn't children owe their parents respect? Weren't families supposed to forgive? But I'd learned something crucial through my work. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation. I could release my anger without resuming a relationship with people who'd hurt me. I could wish them well without making myself available for further harm. The real karma came quietly, without drama or confrontation. My father retired and quickly deteriorated without the structure of work. My mother, who defined herself through her children's achievements, found herself lonely and purposeless. They'd pushed away the daughter, who might have visited regularly, who might have helped navigate aging with grace, in favor of the one who'd been raised to take, not give. Melody did her best, but her patience was thin, her resentment thick. She'd been taught that love was conditional. based on success and appearance. Now that their roles had reversed, her needing them rather than them needing her validation, the relationship was strained and fraught. Meanwhile, my life flourished. Michael and I married in a small ceremony surrounded by the kids from the youth center, colleagues who'd become friends, and the family we'd chosen rather than the one we'd been born into. Melody attended, bringing Emma, trying to show her daughter a different model of sisterhood than what we'd had. My work expanded nationally. I published a book about childhood resilience and trauma recovery. Marcus, now 21, graduated from art school and gave me a painting, a young girl standing alone under a vast star-filled sky, somehow both lonely and luminous. Because you taught me that being alone and being lonely aren't the same thing, he said. On my 31st birthday, I woke to Michael singing softly, breakfast cooking, and cards from dozens of young people I'd mentored over the years. My phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, friends, chosen family. The life I'd built was full and meaningful, and mine. My mother called that afternoon. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Happy birthday, Cassie." Her voice was small, fragile, in a way I'd never heard. "I know I don't deserve to say that. I know we don't deserve your time or attention. But I need you to know, I'm sorry. We're sorry. We were so focused on Melody's achievements because they reflected well on us. We didn't see that we were destroying our relationship with you. We didn't see that you were becoming an extraordinary person despite us, not because of us." I sat down heavily on the couch. Michael squeezed my hand. "We've lost so much time," she continued, crying now. "So many birthdays, so many moments. You needed us, and we weren't there. And now we need you, and you're rightfully refusing. I understand that. I wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what we did, and I'm ashamed. It wasn't enough. No apology could be enough to erase decades of neglect, but it was acknowledgement, finally, of the truth I'd always known. "Thank you for saying that," I said quietly. "I appreciate it. Is there any chance," she started, then stopped. "Could we try? Not to go back, I know we can't, but to build something different?" I looked at Michael, who nodded encouragingly, leaving the choice entirely to me. I thought about Marcus, about Sophia, about Devin, about all the kids I taught, that people could grow and change, that healing was possible even from deep wounds. "Maybe," I said, slowly, with boundaries, and with the understanding that I don't owe you anything, but I might choose to give you something anyway. Not because you're my parents, but because I choose forgiveness for myself, not for you. "That's more than we deserve," she whispered. It was. But grace isn't about deserving. I learned that from Michael, from my chosen family, from the kids who forgave me when I made mistakes in trying to help them. Over the following years, my relationship with my parents remained distant but cordial. They attended some of my speaking engagements, quietly proud but no longer demanding center stage. They learned to ask about my life instead of monopolizing conversations with their concerns. They remembered my birthday, sending thoughtful cards, never expecting grand celebrations or forgiveness for past omissions. Melody and I grew closer. She eventually moved out, found a smaller apartment, got a job that paid less but stressed her less. She focused on being present for Emma, breaking cycles that had been passed down through generations. Sometimes the four of us, Melody, Emma, Michael, and I, would have dinner together, building the sibling relationship we'd never had. The youth center thrived. Kids who'd aged out came back as mentors. Partnerships formed with schools and businesses. The model we developed was replicated in other cities. I never worked for recognition, but it came anyway. Awards, speaking invitations, opportunities to influence policy. None of it erased those lonely birthdays, those moments of invisible pain. But pain, I'd learned, could be composted into purpose. The hurt had taught me empathy. The neglect had taught me to see others clearly. The loneliness had taught me to build authentic connection. On my 35th birthday, my parents asked if they could take me to dinner, just the three of us, a small gesture toward rebuilding. I agreed cautiously. At the restaurant, they gave me a gift, a photo album they'd created, filling in all the missing birthdays with pictures of me they'd taken but never celebrated. Each page had a note: "Your 16th birthday. We're sorry we missed it. You were already so strong. Your 21st, we should have been there. You earned that degree through sheer determination." It was both heartbreaking and healing. an acknowledgement of absence, an attempt to honor what should have been honored all along. "We can't give you back those years," my father said, his voice rough with age and regret. "But we want you to know we see you now. We see what you've always been, remarkable, resilient, worthy of celebration. We just wish we'd seen it sooner." I accepted the album, feeling the weight of it, physical and metaphorical. "Thank you," I said simply. That night, Michael found me looking through the pages, tears streaming down my face. "Happy tears or sad?" he asked gently. "Both," I said. "Sad for what was lost, happy for what I found anyway." He kissed my forehead. "You gave yourself what they couldn't give you. That's not second best. That's heroic." I realized then that karma hadn't punished my parents with dramatic downfall. Instead, it had given them the slow, painful awareness of what they'd thrown away. The daughter who'd become extraordinary, not because of their support, but despite their neglect. They lived with that knowledge, with the realization that they'd wasted precious time with someone who deserved their love all along. And for me, karma had brought something more profound than revenge. It had brought purpose. Every child I helped, every young person who felt seen and valued because of my work, was a ripple effect of my own pain transformed into healing. My parents' failure to celebrate me had taught me to celebrate others, especially those the world overlooked. I'd learned that dignity wasn't just enduring pain, it was refusing to let that pain diminish you, or to pass it on. It was choosing to be different, to break cycles, to build rather than destroy. Standing in my home, surrounded by photos of my chosen family and the young people whose lives had touched mine, I understood that I'd won. Not against my parents, but for myself. I'd built a life worth celebrating, filled with genuine connection and meaningful purpose. And every birthday moving forward, I celebrated not just another year of life, but another year of being fully, authentically seen. If not always by others, then always, always by myself. That was enough, more than enough. It was everything.